All right. All right. All right. So welcome everyone to our week 1 weekly sync for TCL 63. I know you guys were busy this week, cranking out those 2 issues. So this week we'll be going through those. I did mention in Slack that you could use this as a chance to practice your presentation and just practice talking about tech out loud. And this is also a good way to demo your code and what you've been working on. So I would say talk about the code, yes, but also talk about like the actual feature in production. And there weren't many this week, but what you could also talk about would be any challenges you faced and how you overcame them. Yeah. So who had issue number 1? Yeah. So Aslan, Karina, you all could take it away. Could share your screens if you need to.
Hi, everyone. So I'm going to start by sharing the change in user experience and UI design, and then Aslan is going to introduce the technical part of the code. Okay, so just give me a second. I'm going to have to switch between 2 tabs. Should I go with the basic or the advanced choice here in Zoom?
What was that you said? Oh.
Can you hear me?
Yep, I can see your screen as well.
Oh, okay. Okay, so I'll admit that I was getting very nervous, so I wasn't going to have a slideshow, but I used to be a teacher, so every time I was like really well prepared, I had something to show. So I wasn't trying to be too fancy, but that helps with my just being anxious and presenting. So this is I'm going to share the change in user experience and the change in the UI design when dealing with the issue number 1 related to the shopping cart project as part of the Collab Lab project. Okay, so issue number 1 was listed as use list item component to render items in list component, and myself and Aslan, we worked on this issue. As in terms of like user experience, or what was expected of us is to make sure that the user can read the names of all the items in the shopping list. Now, this is a shopping list that came as a demo with the code base that was shared with us, and each item is saved as a document in Firebase. Okay, so this is how the list page looked before we added our code, and this is what looked after. So once again, I just want to stress out that each item has more information than just its name in the database, but the requirement was that for the user to see just the name of each item. So there are just 5 items in the database right now. Okay, in terms of testing, if the user clicks the list link on the nav bar, should be able to see the list of items. At the time when Aslan and I were working on this issue, the nav links were not added, if I remember correctly. So one could also manually append lists to the homepage URL to view the list items. So I'm gonna exit the Google Slide view, and I'm actually gonna go to the actual render of the page so I can demonstrate how it works. I think I have to stop the share and then share again if that's okay, because I'm not sure how to transfer from Google Slides to another tab. It's like the first time I'm presenting on Zoom. I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm so nervous. So like my hand is like, where am I supposed to
That's
go?
okay. That's no rush. Take your
I
time.
did this for like 2 years during the pandemic as a teacher, and I was like, so I have no excuse to fumble this. But obviously, I'm just having a hard time. I'm not sure why it's not showing up. Apologize. Like I don't know what I'm doing wrong, but I don't have it as a choice when I not sure.
So I saw your window just now. Maybe is it just that tab that you have to select, that smart shopping list tab?
Where did you see it?
So I'm seeing your Chrome window right now. Is it Chrome or your
Okay, so
So I see there's a tab
no,
with
that's just the fire. Let me get to it. Because it's oh, I can see it now. I'm sorry, it was hiding before. Okay. Oh my goodness. Okay. So we're on the home page now. There's nothing on the home page. So if we look at the bottom, we see the navbar with home list and add item. And so if we click on the list link, we should see the list of the 5 items.
good, looks good.
Okay, I think this is where I pass on the baton to Hassan. And then he will be talking about the code piece of this issue. Thank you so much. And sorry for all the, I'll do better next time, all the fumbling around the
That's okay. That's
sharing.
That's a good job, Karina. Very thorough. Very thorough. Aslan, you're muted.
Okay, so it should be, so you
There we
hear me
go.
now, right?
Yes,
Okay.
there we go.
You have my screen, just to make sure. You have my screen? Yes, okay. So this is the app component, and here with this custom hook, we are actually retrieving data from the Firebase database. Of course, we are using the my test token, my test list token for now. But in production, we are going to use the token that the user is going to input to the app. And the data that we are retrieving with this test token, we are passing that data here to the list route, to the list component. So if we come here we are retrieving the data and we are populating that data. We use the map method here, and we are iterating each item through this map method. And what each item is giving us from the database, it has quantity, it has ID, it has name. For now, we are only using the ID attribute and the name attribute. We use the ID attribute from each item to produce the key for this list item. And of course, we are passing the name attribute to the list item component. So if I go to the list item component here, you can see we are destructuring the name attribute from the past data, and we are outputting the name of each item through the list item component.
Nice. Well done.
Thank you.
So I know I know this issue was fairly straightforward, but were there any, was there anything particularly challenging or difficult about this one?
Not really. It was
Oh.
pretty simple. Yeah.
Nice. Karina,
I think it was more the GitHub, working with GitHub and, opening, not so much opening the branch, but, when do we close it? When do we give feedback? And which were, I guess, pretty straightforward in hindsight, but it's the first time we had to work on those issues. So we were kind of, okay, I'm speaking for myself, kind of nervous. We want to make sure that we're not going to make a mistake.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
All right. Nice job. Shangwan, Raquel, you want to take over for your issue?
So I'm going to be the one sharing my screen, and I'm going to share right now. Just a minute. I think it is this whole thing. Let's see. Okay, can you guys see both the code on the right side and then? Yep. I think you can. Okay, so Shangwan and I worked on issue number 2. We needed to fix the navigation so the users could easily go to all the pages and the application using just the nav links. And to do this, we just replaced the anchor tags with a nav link from React router DOM. And here it is the before, where the nav links didn't work whatsoever. And the after, I'm going to leave it to Shangwan explaining our thought process about the code part and also showing the after.
Thank you, Raquel. So as you can see, this is our demo homepage here, and it says hello from the homepage. And then at the bottom, you can see we have our 3 nav links appear. And then if you click on the list subpage, it brings us to the list page, and you can see the screen changes. And then if we do that too to the add items, it also jumps to the hello from the add item page. So that means our nav links are working. And the way we did that was in the code, we first imported the nav link from React Router DOM. And then we, in the nav container div, replace the anchor tag with the 3 nav links. And then we also set the 2 attribute to the route. And then the route, we got it from the app.jsx file. That's why when we navigate, you can see that the URL link changes. That's how the nav links work. And we also added the class name nav link to each of the 3 nav links. This is because there is a CSS style associated with the nav link. So as you can see on the screen, whichever page we are currently on, it has an underline, and then the text is also a little bit bolder. Yeah, so this is a feature we completed. Any questions?
No, it looks good. Works well. Any difficulties, any challenges with this one? Have you all ever worked with React Router before?
I did. I learned exactly on that day because I'm not good with the React Router. So I basically woke up really early in the morning and studied a little bit, and it was pretty much very straightforward. Yeah.
Yeah, me too. I did work with React Router DOM. I think just as the other team, we also learned a bit about Git and check out the branch, how to create a new branch, etc.
Nice, good job. Good job, everyone.
Thank you. I'm going to stop sharing the screen.
All right, so let's see, next up we have, all right, so it's my turn to share my screen. And all right, can you all see my presentation with code reviews?
Yep.
All right, so I mean, y'all did a pretty good job with this this week so far, but let's just dig in a bit more in terms of, what are code reviews and how they generally should go. Yeah. So these are some questions here. What is a code review? We'll go through the code review cycle. What makes a good code review, a great code review? How can I help others review my code? How can I review others' code? And exploring code in GitHub. So first off, what is a code review? So essentially, it's a conversation about the changes in code that you're bringing. And it's one of the best places to share that knowledge and learn from others. So you can think of it more as a collaborative space where you will share your work, ask questions, and look at ways on how things were implemented, and ask questions about why things were done a certain way. So it's actually a good opportunity for you to learn as well. And as a result, it helps you to improve as a developer. And it helps your team to decentralize knowledge, to share responsibility, and to improve the code quality base, because it's no longer a single person working on a project. So this is what you all have been doing this week. Once you had your code ready for review, you'd open a pull request. Usually there would be some kind of feedback. Mostly positive. Sometimes there may be options to improve or ways to improve the code. If you had to, you could make changes, and then that code would be merged. So Aslan had raised a good question this week of, what happens if I realize that there was some error with my code before actually, getting it approved, and it would be somewhere in between this area over here. So there is still time to make changes and update the code prior to merging. So once you're at this point, you're good. Once it's merged, it becomes a different story. Yeah. And in those cases, generally, you might want to create a new branch and create a new PR to correct it at that point. So what makes a good code review a great code review? I mean, I think you all did a great job already so far, so maybe you all could tell me. But I would say, generally, don't focus on stylistic changes. You don't want to be focusing on too much, like, oh, you didn't use like 4 spaces here, or you used tabs instead of spaces, you missed a semicolon. To be honest, I think the more time passes, the less that becomes relevant. Not that it isn't important, but just because we have so many tools right now to help us. So we have tools like Prettier and ESLint. We have type checkers, which we don't really use that much in this project, but there's a lot of, I should say, there are a lot of tools to help catch these things. So, even if there's an issue with respect to human input, a lot of times these are actually corrected automatically. And in fact, I think that this is how this project is set up. There is actually some linting that is done with your project automatically. And sometimes VS Code will actually notify you if there's an issue with respect to, even React. It will highlight stuff to tell you something is potentially off over here. So continuing with how to reviewing code, I'd always encourage you to run the code locally, right? Some people will just look at the code in GitHub without ever really trying it out, which might work, but then it's hard for you to actually understand what's happening with it and see if it actually works the way it's supposed to. So as best as you could, try to check out the feature locally or in a test environment and see if it does what it is supposed to. Does it meet the acceptance criteria? I had raised this one with you all earlier this week as well. Will you understand this code from like a month from now? This just comes down to code readability. And this could be related to things like how you name your variables, how you structure your project, how you name your functions. And it could also come down to, did you leave comments in the code, or are comments necessary at this point to explain what is happening, right? Because I think what you want to bear in mind is that other people will be reviewing your code, and you will probably also be reviewing your code. So ensure that it is readable. Now, I think we saw a lot of this as well happening in this code review, which is praise. So we generally want to call out the good stuff. Yeah, so be sure to lay on some praise. And default to approval. Be kind and empathetic. So I think all these three are pretty straightforward in terms of focus on the good things as well. Like, yes, we will address some of the negative stuff, but you do, if you were also on the receiving end of this, I think you would also appreciate highlighting the positive aspects, or having the positive aspects of your code be highlighted. Yeah. Also, what makes a code review great? Well, you help others to understand changes that you're making. Try to answer all the questions that are asked. Take your time. I think those are all fairly straightforward. Run the code. So I mean, I just went into this in depth, but test the code. See what it's supposed to do. See if it does what it's supposed to do. Open it up in Chrome. You can look at things like errors in the console. Resist the temptation to skip it and to use LGTM, which means looks good to me. Yeah, Chase knows what I'm talking about. That tends to be a typical response. I mean, I am guilty of doing it sometimes, but it is because I've generally checked out code. Yeah, I've seen you all do this as well, which is include instructions in your PRs how to run code. And this is generally a good idea, especially if you're working on bigger projects where there are very specific details on what needs to be done to run that code. If you're not sure, ask questions. This is the Collab Lab. We encourage these kinds of things. Yeah, but remember, these are all opportunities to learn from each other, learn from one another, and get better at writing code, and also it's an opportunity to make your project better. So how can I help others review my code? Again, this is something that you all absolutely nailed this week. Add a meaningful PR description. Sometimes you could do a presentation like Karina. Write meaningful commit messages. So I think, Karina, you had mentioned this as well, where there was an issue with a specific commit. Having good meaningful commit messages would actually help you to track changes that are being made. And I think we had said this before, which is where we want to commit, make small commits and commit frequently. Remember, all these changes that you make once it is merged actually becomes part of the main branch. So having good commit messages from the point of your PRs actually helps it to be readable in the long run with respect to the main branch. Self-review your code. Always explain what you did, or explain why you did what you did, and ask questions, even if you're the one creating the PR. Sometimes this may be hard to do, but I guess what you want to be able to do is step outside yourself and maybe look at the code as somebody external to you who's reviewing it. Yeah, see if you could answer the questions that others may ask. And you can use screen capturing tools. So you all did this as well, which was, everyone showed screenshots of befores and afters of the project, which was great. If it's something a bit more involved, you can actually do like a screen recording using tools like Loom. I've never personally used Sketch so Zappy, but I've used Loom. If you're on macOS, I think you can actually screen record a video and upload. It should be able to upload it as part of your PR to GitHub. Yeah, so exploring code in GitHub. So this could be a bit involved, but generally, once you go to the section that involves files change, provided the commits are small enough, you should be able to see what code was changed, what code was added, and what was deleted. Generally, if it's in red, it was code that was removed. If it was green, it should be new code. And this is why it's also helpful to have small commits, right? Because you don't want to have to review a new PR that's 500 lines of code. It just makes it more difficult. Yeah. So small commits, commit frequently. So these are ways you could actually review code in GitHub. I personally do not use this method, but it can be done in terms of marking reviewed files as viewed, so you're able to keep track of what you looked at. And it's just an opportunity for you all to share your thoughts. What has been your experience in the past with code reviews? How did it feel to do a code review like this this week, and how has it felt over the last week compared to what you did previously in your code reviews? Did you all do code reviews before for group projects? No, you never had your code reviewed, Karina.
No, it's good. I had my code reviewed, but even though it was not done by a person, it was done by a bot or whatever. This was part of the Harvard CS50. This is how I started in the fall, and they have this really cool system that you submit something and it gives you like really good feedback apart from the errors that you might see in the code. Like I can't really, it's like I've never encountered any classes that I've taken before. It's via GitHub, but I don't think that has anything to do with that. So it would give you feedback on styling, especially in the beginning, they're really focusing on that, and then on just like pure technical parts. So again, I couldn't like talk to a person about it, but that was really helpful. If you're self-taught, if you have nobody else to give you feedback, the way they have it set it up. But the way we did it last week, for me, it was the first time.
Did you all any of you all do like inline comments for code, or like actually leave a comment or have comments left on your code before to say, hey, this was great, or maybe this is something you could try this method, or did you all have those kind of experiences before?
What I had was, I think I told you I'm part of like a Discord group where I could like share my GitHub link to a repo and the live site. So I had that experience a few times. I always say that I appreciate like direct and honest feedback. So the tone was very professional in the sense, these are the two people who gave me feedback. They're really professional, but I can see someone who's new being a bit offended in the sense that there's no, how do you say, there are no gloves, kind of like, this is what it is. But I have that kind of experience because I used to be a teacher, and an evaluator would come into your room, observe you for 5 minutes, and then at the end of the day, you'll receive like 3 pages comments or what went wrong, and just being judged in 5 minutes. So I'm used with, again, direct and honest feedback. So do this, do that, this is not working.
I think that you raise a good point. Like sometimes it may be easy to mistake feedback for criticism, and that may not necessarily be the case. So especially if you have somebody senior review your code, sometimes it might just be a good question to ask. Is there merit in how this person's how this person is approaching solving this problem? What could I learn from it? Sometimes if you're part of an organization, that review just maybe because the code has to comply with the specific style that project is written in. So don't take offense. So don't be quick to. As I said,
I'm not, like, I'm really open-minded, and I come from a culture where, teacher would put you down. They say that you don't have the DNA to succeed. So I come from that culture, so yeah. So it just, like, as long as the language it's you don't have to, because sometimes we tend to say, oh, I really love this. So we wrap maybe a negative feedback, we try to wrap in a positive overall comment. And so some people do that, some people don't. So I'm fine with both, as long as the feedback is, so to speak, is not disrespectful.
Yes.
And I'm hoping it doesn't get to that point in a work environment, But I do want to say, because you mentioned, getting feedback from somebody who's senior, as an entry level, it's hard to tell, because sometimes I want to say, I'm not sure, is that the only way? How much subjectivity is in somebody's feedback? You know what I'm saying? Like, I had that issue, and to be honest, I was shy to ask. Okay, because first of all, I asked for help, something I couldn't was working in my code. I received the help, but it's kind of like you go to a doctor and you say, okay, yeah, it looks like it's, you know, what you're saying might work, might help me, but can I get a second opinion, you know? And I was
Yeah.
going to ask the same person, is there another way to do this? But I felt bad because, like, okay, you're taking your time to help him with that. So I'm sorry. I hope I'm not going too much off tangent, you know, but yeah.
Well, JC had something.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like at work we run into this sometimes. I feel like one thing we do is we preface some of our comments if it's non-blocking, as in like you can like merge this in, even though like maybe this should be changed. We preface it with knit and a colon. Just say maybe, you know, look at this, but you can still merge it in. And I don't know. I think sometimes it happens, right? Some people have a preferred style or method of doing something, and it may be comparable to what you did. So you just have to kind of feel that person out and see what it is. It could be the same. But yeah, I mean, I, I feel like in code review, you definitely run into some like personality conflicts with people, like senior people that'll use it to kind of I don't know. Maybe kind of like put you in your place, I guess. And that's a real disappointment when that happens, because I find that code review is the best place to like learn and grow. I mean, I spend a lot of time with my team every week in code review, reviewing my other teammates' code and they reviewing mine. You get to see, you know, people doing great things. You get to learn there and get to show some people maybe better ways to do things. But yeah, it's really rewarding and a great place as long as everyone's approaching it with a good attitude.
Yeah, so I don't know, maybe depending on the person reviewing your code, you could ask why. Maybe you could ask, you know, what was your reason behind this method? I mean, I definitely would encourage it once you're here. Outside of here, maybe just feel that personality out and see, you know, if it would be okay to ask those questions. So there's some further reading. Just like last week, we will make this slide available to you all. And so there's one thing I wanted to show you all as well. Once your project gets merged to, where is it? Yep. So your project actually is automatically deployed once it gets merged to main at this URL over here. So when we said present in production, this would be where that code lives. I'm not sure if the repo is set up like this, but I think it should be deployed on Netfly. Sometimes even with the branches, once you open a PR, sometimes it automatically gives you like a preview URL for your code. So you could actually see your code in a test production environment, deployed in a test production environment before it actually gets merged to main. This is a project brief file, and you'd see this here. All right. All right, so we have two brand new issues for you all this week. We have Chase who take it over from here.
Yeah. All right. So we have issues 3 and 4 this week. Let's get started looking at issue 3. Title is, as a user, I want to set up a new shopping list so I can start tracking purchase items. So for us here, a shopping list is a set of items associated with a specific 3-word token. This is, as Lennon kind of pointed out in the code, this custom hook that right now is setting that kind of preview 3-word token so we can see a list. But yeah, we need to allow users to start new lists so they can save the things they need to buy. To start a new list, we want to do 3 things. We want to generate a new unique token, save the token to local storage, and show the user the list view. So up to this point, the app has rendered the items in the list associated with the token my test list. And before we can allow users to make new lists, we have to stop showing them this test list. So for our AC, first one, we're going to add shopping list utils from the Collab lab as a dependency to the project. The string my test list in app.jsx is replaced with null, so users are not automatically subscribed to any list. And then we kind of have a branch here. So if a user doesn't already have a token, they are redirected from the list page back to the home page. There's a button on the home button in the home component that allows them to create a new list. Clicking the button generates a new token and saves it to local storage using an existing setlist token function in app.jsx. Once the token has been created and saved, the user is redirected to the list view. The other option would be if a user does already have a token, they are automatically redirected to the list page. Yep, we have a couple notes here showing us like how we would implement or import this dependency here into the code. We do want that @ sign at the beginning. Yeah. Are there any questions about the AC for this one?
So if I'm understanding this correctly, we're replacing the token. It's the button that we create is going to generate the new token that's saved to local storage. So we are, in terms of UI, we are losing the 5-item list. Yes. So if we implement this, we wouldn't be seeing anything in the list.
Yeah, I believe that's correct for right now.
So we're not adding anything. We're just creating the token, but we're not adding any items to the list that we are creating with the new token.
Gotcha. Yeah, I believe at the end of this story or this issue, we kind of lose that list. We don't yet have the ability to add items yet. But yeah, we would be generating a token for them if they would create a new list. But yeah, that would be correct. We kind of lose those items on that list page.
Thank you.
And it looks like this week Aslan and Raquel are working together, as well as Karina and Shangwen. Would any team prefer to do this issue number 3? Oh, sorry.
Or did you want to just look at issue number 4?
Oh, sorry.
First?
Yep.
Yeah.
Let's do issue number 4 first. Number 4. As a user, I want to add a new item to my shopping list so I can start recording purchases. So the summary here, users need to be able to add items to their shopping lists. To do this, the add item view should present them with a form that allows them to enter 2 things. 1, a name of an item, and 2 is an estimate of when they think they're going to be able to buy that item, or need to buy that item, excuse me. Yep. So for the UI, tasks in our AC are the add item view displays a form that allows a user to enter the name of the item and select how soon they anticipate needing to buy it. So we're going to have 3 choices for how soon to buy an item. Soon, which is corresponding to 7 days, kind of soon, corresponding to 14 days, not soon, corresponding to 30 days. The input that accepts the name of the item has a semantic label element associated with it. The user can submit this form with both the mouse and the enter key. When the user submits the form, they see a message indicating that the item either was or was not saved to the database. And then our data-related tasks for this AC, the console log and the add item function in our Firebase.js, it's going to be replaced with the function that adds the new document to the Firebase data store. That function will be imported from Firebase Firestore module. So like where add item is like partially filled out or completed for us, we have to add a little additional functionality there. Yeah. All right. Any questions or comments about issue number 4?
So And I'll have to kind of like deeper in both of them, or depending on which one I'm assigned to. But so this can be done independently of number 3. I'm just thinking that for number 3, we have the button to generate the token, and it's allowing us to go to the list page, I forget, or add item. And we should be able to add items regardless of the status of the token? Or are we adding items to, which list are these items gonna be added to on the issue number 4?
Gotcha. Yeah, I think you're kind of correct. In the sense that we're going to be adding items, I believe, to whatever our currently selected or assigned list would be.
So the demo, it's like my list or something. Okay.
Yeah, like I just think like this is kind of independent of which list we have selected, in the sense that, well, we're just going to be adding items to our current list. If that makes sense.
Would
But
that
yeah.
be because we are gonna first we need the token so we can actually be able to add any item? That's why this one is first.
Yeah, like I think we'll be adding
The third one,
items.
sorry.
Yeah. So the third one we're gonna add or change the way. Currently, we just get a kind of that test token, or a preview token that we're using right now. And yeah, in 3, we'll be able to create new tokens for new lists. And then 4 is more, we're just going to be, I believe, adding items for whichever list we have already selected. That makes sense. Like in some sense, they're independent of each other.
So there's a wireframe for this issue 4. Do we need to add any style, or we're just waiting for that at the end?
Do you ask about styles?
Yeah, CSS styles.
Yeah, I would say not really. If you do, just keep it very, very basic. This wireframe is just a preview of what it could look like, just to give you like a visual idea of,
Okay.
direction that we're headed. But this is by no means what the final thing has to look like. Yeah.
Right.
Sometimes it's just kind of hard to picture this. And so this is just what that form should look like. Yeah. So I would say don't spend too much time on styling right now, because you will spend a lot of time styling at the end. Some good questions though.
Any more questions? Should we try to select issues? Does anyone have a strong desire to do either issue 3 or issue 4?
I like them both, so I can't decide. So I'm just gonna let Faith Faith decide. Unless Shangguan has a preference, yeah.
I think we can go like last time. Let's go with the order. I also don't have a strong preference. Unless the other teams.
Aslan or Raquel, do you have any strong preference between 3 or 4?
I don't have a preference, no.
Okay. Well then we might just go in order of the list I have here. So for number 3, I did not want to assign myself.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, maybe not.
Okay. So for number 3, I'll assign Aslan. And I have Raquel. That worked. Oh, I'm still assigned. Okay, awesome. Then for 4, Corina. Should that work? Awesome. All right, so for 3, we have Aslan and Raquel, and then 4, we have Shangwana and Karina. All right.
Looks good. This week will be fun.
Yeah, these issues seem a little bit more involved than last week's issues.
We're taking up a few notches this time, so you will have to do a bit more reading, a bit more research into how to make these things work.
We are ready.
Yeah, nice. All right. Any questions, any comments, queries before we wrap this week up?
Can I ask a question about frequent commits? Because I'm struggling with that in my own like projects. You know, like I'll give you an example. Like the other day I was working because I'm working on like a larger website. It's like a bookstore website, you know, where you have a shopping cart, you add stuff to the shopping cart, you can delete or and I was having trouble bringing focus to the shopping cart. So I used useref, but there's 2 different issues. Like when the shopping cart is open and there's several items in the shopping cart, like I wanted the focus to go to the first item, and then the user can increase or decrease the quantity for the book. And there's the second issue when the shopping cart is empty. Most likely nobody would open it, but I was just kind of preparing for every scenario, especially for a keyboard user. Maybe you open it by mistake. Okay. And then the same code I used wasn't working before. So I had to create another useref to bring the focus to the close button, because the only thing you could do with an empty shopping cart was to close it. And then for me, that was 1 commit. I don't know if it makes sense from what I described, but is that a case where I should have had like 2 commits? Or like I'm trying to get a sense, what does it mean a small, like a frequent commit? So that's why I gave that example. I'm not sure it's a good one. It basically has, I use effect twice, you know. Actually, I'm sorry, no. You know, there's like a bigger use effect with like an if and else, you know, and then 2 use refs, and so I don't know.
I mean, I don't have a hard and fast rule, but I might look at how much new code is added or changed since the last commit, you know, because if you change so much that if you have to go back to one, like the previous commit, then like how much code do you lose? Yeah. So if you look at, you know, how big of a goal or how much things you have to implement, and then maybe split that up into, you know, 2 or 3 steps. Again, it could be more. That's how I might determine how many commits to make. So maybe think of it in the context as if you had to do like a big undo and go back, like do like a git revert, how much would you lose going back in that sense? I don't know if Chase has opinion on this.
No, I mean, that sounds great. Great to me. Yeah, I would think of it mainly in the sense of like, you know, if you're, I don't know, doing something I'm not sure if it's going to work, definitely make a commit so I can easily like revert those like small changes. Yeah. But I mean, overall, if it seems like a thing, like I'll just commit 1 thing if it seems, I don't know, comprehensive to the issue I'm working on, if that makes sense as well. Yeah, and then I think the big thing is like keeping commits small so we can kind of keep PRs small as well, just so they're easier for everyone to review, because that's kind of a big thing, I guess, in the work environment. Trying to get someone to review a really big PR is can sometimes be a difficult task.
Yeah.
So in terms of like the, you know, quantity or number of lines of code, you know, anything between, let's say, up to like 10, 15 lines of code, you know, assuming like a function and maybe some variables, would that be small enough, or would I have to break that? Assuming that function takes care overall, like in my case, I have one use effect that takes care of two features. And it's true that when I implemented it, I started with one of the features first. So that I had like an if inside the use effect, I had like an if statement. Okay, so it was working, and I noticed, oh, this one is not working when the cart is empty. So what should I do? So would that been a place where I should have committed because it was working when the cart had items? And then, okay, let me add the feature when it's also working, the focus is working when the cart is empty, or those two should be together. So just, I guess my original question was like, the quantity of the code matters too, because you were just saying like you don't want to overwhelm the reviewer with a lot of code.
Yeah, I think if it's something I'm working on personally, kind of like you were saying, every time, if I'm doing something I'm not sure it's going to work, each time I kind of get a step in there in the right direction and the code's working, I'd probably commit it there just so, I have something to go back to that's not, too far back. I don't lose a lot to go back to like kind of a base where I was still, everything was working well, and I was going in the right direction for sure. Yeah. Yeah, I think like kind of personally on like a personal project, it's more of, yeah, like when things were working, and that's kind of like the amount of lines of code necessarily. But yeah, I don't know. Like for work, I'll commit if it's something's in the same. I mean, I do one commit for each like issue I'm working on, which may not be the best, but I rebase things so they look nice.
I have a question kind of related to that. Is it a good practice in a team project that, for example, you work on a few features, a few components, but if each change is kind of small, so you kind of commit to each of these small changes, do you have to do a pull request after each commit, or could you bundle all these commit requests together and then submit like a bigger pull request that includes all those previous commits?
Sure. At least as far as like my work goes, we essentially do one PR for the most part for like an issue. Like what we're doing is issues here. So for each issue, it depends, but usually it correlates to about one PR. So if I'm doing like 3 changes that are what I need to do complete all the AC for that like issue, that would be one PR for me if it's all in one repo.
So you could have multiple commits, but then have one pull request to do all of those.
Sure, yeah. I mean, you can have as many commits as you want for a pull request. It's definitely not one commit to one pull request. As many commits as you need to get it right. Yeah, in the PR, because like especially for me, say I get some comments on that PR, I'll definitely make a commit addressing those comments, and then people re-reviewing it can see the changes, since they had reviewed it in the first place. So you can do a bunch of commits for one PR, definitely.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and I think you could probably also look at like how issues are written with Collab. Like the current issues that you're working on actually has acceptance criteria. So what are the steps that would be involved for each issue? But like that would still just be one PR though. And there's still small enough that like yeah, there are things that have to be done, but they're still small enough that they could be reviewed by like the other team. And so I think it's more digestible in that sense. Yeah, some good questions though, like. All right, anything else? All right, so I believe Chase will be handling office hours this week.
Yeah, I'll try to get out a doodle. Is that right?
Yes,
Producing?
or whichever one you prefer. I had just used Doodle, but I think they changed it so that you're only allowed to select up to 20 slots now. So there was another one called, I think, rally.ceo, but use whatever works.
Yeah, I'll get that out early this week so we can set up a time.
All right, nice work so far, team. I look forward to this week. I will set up those threads shortly. But keep working, keep communicating, and feel free to reach out if you have any questions or any concerns. Yeah. All right, everyone, have a great week. Happy coding. Bye.